The NHL is going to look a lot different next year as we see a ton of players break out in a big way in 2024. But who are the players who are going to have career seasons? Well, today I'm going to list 15 different players who I think will break out in 2024. But make sure you watch till the end for all the rankings and all the player analysis, and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey content just like this all throughout the year, and a ton of content for this next NHL season. You guys won't want to miss a thing. Now, I will say the only criteria I have for this video to make it even more interesting than some of the other breakout videos I've done in the past for different seasons is that today I am not going to allow any rookies on this list. So to not make it super easy, not having just players like Connor Bedard, Nanafin, Tilly, and other players like that just all over the list, no rookies are allowed today. Besides that, though, any NHL player is eligible to break out, have a career season, and if they are, they could be on this list. Now let's go through my 15 players who I think will break out in 2024, and first things first, let's start today off at number 1 with a big-time center here who's going to get a lot more opportunity this next season in Jesperi Kotkaniemi. With the Carolina Hurricanes, he's in a really fascinating spot, of course, with Jordan Staal likely getting a downgraded role. Kotkaniemi will likely step into that second-line center position and really thrive. Like he did last year for the second half, he was great offensively while putting up the best defensive results of his career, and I think over a full season, we could see that this next year in his, I guess, 23-year-old season. At 6'2", of course, a former 3rd overall pick, you can see what he did last year in his first full 82-game season, getting 18 goals, 25 assists for 43 points, looking solid in the playoffs too, 7 points in 15 games there, but you're going to see that defensive game continue, but to me, I think we could see another increase in the goal scoring, getting past that 20-goal mark, and being consistent on offense. Again, when he got more opportunity in the second half last year, he was actually pretty great. He got 27 points in his final 35 games of the regular season, and that scoring was staying consistent in the playoffs too. With that big an opportunity, Carolina getting some more depth on the forward group and the wing, with players like Michael Bunting as well. He'll likely be playing with players like Teravainen, who should be healthy, players like Seth Jarvis potentially. So a lot of options on both wings for Kotkaniemi, and I think offensively, he'll really make the most of it. Now going on to my second player who will break out big in 2024. Next up, let's go on to another player who had a really great second half compared to his first, and that's Quinton Byfield of the LA Kings. Now, since being placed on that first line with Kopitar and Kempe, that line was rolling, and Byfield really was a great player and a productive player on that line. At 21 years old, of course, still on the younger side of his career, and still has a lot more room to grow. But last year, we saw him finally get some good comfort, at least at the NHL level, and look like he belonged, which was the next step for him. You can see in 53 games, got 3 goals, 19 assists, 22 points. It doesn't pop off at you, but this is a player that looked pretty comfortable on that first line with those first line minutes, and that was great to see. And with the potential, the size, the physical play that Byfield can have, there's still so much potential for Byfield at the NHL level with this Kings team. And I think on the first line with this next year in a full season, we'll see him get even more comfortable and hopefully start to show the skill that had him drafted second overall. And for Byfield, if he's able to pot 40, 50, 60 points this year, that would be a resounding success. He might not put up the points that a player like Tim Stützle might put up, but he's a player that, even though he's slowly developing, you can start to see the potential really with him at the NHL level. And with the Kings, you can develop him as a center further along in his career as well. So there's still so much room to grow even after he starts putting up the points that he should. Now, we've talked about 2 different centermen here. Now let's go on to a defenseman I think will break out huge in 2024, and a guy that I think will get a lot of success this next season as his team gets a lot better, hopefully, and that is Zach Werenski of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, hopefully the Mike Babcock distractions are finally gone. It's crazy to think that he is still just 26 years old. It feels like he's been in the league forever, but he's never hit the 50-point plateau, which for an offensive defenseman, you kind of need to get, especially in a full healthy season as Columbus gets better. I think he will easily get there, but to me, it's the improvements in the overall game that could take Werenski into that next step. Hopefully we'll see a full season with solid defensive responsibility. For Columbus, that's the biggest need on the defense. And I think for Werenski, the time is now to make that happen. The time is now to be that 200-foot player that I think he has the talent to be. And it's really unfortunate because I think in the 13 games we saw of him last year, I think we did see some of that responsibility, even if the plus-minus doesn't look great. Columbus was bad last year, I know, shocker. But I think last year in the games we did see from him, he looked spectacular, hoping we finally see another 82-game season out of him in that health gets back to check, and hopefully a 50-plus season out of him too. Now let's go to the fourth player I want to talk about here, and a player that I think will be a big part of the Nashville Predators' success this next season, and that is Philip Tomasino, who was the 24th overall pick back then in 2019 by the Preds. And even though he's turned 22 in July, there's still a lot of room to grow with him. And you can see he's only had 2 NHL seasons so far, one where he played 67 games, one where he played 31. This last season, we saw him a much more limited sample size, playing a lot of the season in the AHL, but when he did play in the NHL, he got 18 points in 31 games. He was brought back up at a certain point, and then he really started to hit the ground running with the Preds and started to rack up a lot more points. Really, in those last few weeks, it was him, it was Glass, it was also players like Evangelista, really putting up great numbers for younger players. I think Tomasino, though, is going to be in that top 6. Hopefully, could get a very solid season underway, and hey, I could see him reaching 40, 50 points, providing some great scoring for the Preds that they really do need next year. Now we're going to go to another super young player here, and a player that on defense I think could have a really solid season coming up, mostly because of the opportunity he's going to have, and that is Jamie Drysdale of the Anaheim Ducks. Now, it really is unfortunate what happened to him last season. He was drafted 6th overall back in 2020, and last year, of course, he played 8 games, got 0 points, and then went down with a serious injury, and that was tough to see, because in the rookie season, 32 points in 81 games, he looked great offensively, looked a little bit more comfortable, but also getting more consistent on the defensive side was something I wanted to see, and what we saw in 2023 at the start wasn't too bad. It looked like it was going to be progressing well throughout the year, and then of course that injury came and kind of derailed everything. But this next year could be really important in Drysdale's development, as Anaheim's defense is pretty wide open. He'll be on that top 4. It's just a matter of how much opportunity he gets. We know how talented he is with puck moving and the way he skates, but taking that next step into being a comfortable pro at the NHL level is going to take some getting used to, especially after he's been away from the action for so long. But I could see Anaheim really using him in a great way on the power play, using him in a lot more situations as he gets more comfortable, and hopefully we see that next step into a true top 4 defenseman this next year. Now, because we are including rookies on this list, there's actually quite a few players on the older side of things. This might be one of my older players on the list, but to me, I think we will see him break out in a big way, and that is Tyler Bertuzzi of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, Bertuzzi is all but locked to have a position alongside Auston Matthews as that first line left wing, and for Bertuzzi, there's not much that could happen to be in a better position for him personally. I mean, you can see what's gone through his NHL career so far, having a couple solid seasons with Detroit, 47 points and 48 points and 19 and 20 respectively. Since then, of course, we've seen a little bit of lackluster health. He got a great season in 2022, but then in 2023 missed a lot of the season with Detroit, and that was tough to see. He obviously missed a lot of the season in 2021 as well, and I feel like this next season, hopefully we'll see that health carry on, be consistent again, and if he's alongside Matthews for the full season, you could see a 60, maybe even 70 point season out of him. I think he is capable of that, especially with the tenacity he has. I think it's a perfect fit alongside Matthews and can bring a lot of things that Bunting wasn't able to, for instance. But to me, I think with the position he's in Toronto, the offense around him, Bertuzzi is in a perfect position to get the most out of that, bang at a few goals here and there, rough up around the boards, and be exactly what he needs to be, a Bertuzzi. Now let's stick with the Ontario teams here and go on to the Ottawa Senators, and there's a few players I could see breaking out in a solid way this next year, but nobody that has, I guess, as much potential to, in my opinion, as Joonas Korpisalo, who is in a fascinating spot in his career. Of course, 29 years old and 6'3", 192 pounds. He is going to be one of the most interesting players to watch, I think, in the entire league next year, honestly. You can see what's happened with Columbus and just a couple of solid years here and there. In 2020, he looked solid, had a great playoffs there. Since then, it wasn't all too complete until last year, where he put up a .913 save percentage in 28 games around that awful Columbus defense and actually looked pretty good. He looked great with LA in the regular season, kind of trailed off in the second half of the playoffs, but this is a player that last year was really consistent in the regular season, was great behind an awful defense, and even though Ottawa's isn't spectacular by any means, they have some good pieces, and Korpisalo right now in the prime of his career could put up a really solid season if he's fully healthy and is the starter there, and I think with some flexibility in net there too, I think Korpisalo could be the starter that Ottawa's needed. Now we'll see how good he ends up being, but the time is now for Korpisalo to live up to the hype that we have seen out of him for years and years and years. It has to happen this season. Now we're going to go on to another Atlantic Division team. Now let's go on to the Montreal Canadiens and one of their biggest potential breakout players. I mean, it's got to be Alex Newhook, right? I mean, there's a few other players you could put here. You could put Slavkovsky, you could put a player like a Caden Gooley, perhaps, and I could absolutely see that. Alex Newhook, to me, though, has the biggest potential, likely going to be on that top 6 immediately, and I think Alex Newhook, of course, with what we've seen with Colorado, he's shown some great moments, but hasn't really been able to put it all together. But we see what Marty St. Louis has done with some other players, what he did with Kirby Dach last year, and the resurgence of him, and I could absolutely see the same thing happening with Alex Newhook. The playmaking style he has is just great, and this is a player that has just pure talent, pure skill, but like we talked about before with the Avs, wasn't a consistent product, and that was something that brought him down the lineup. Even if he was given opportunities, he wasn't able to seize it exactly as Colorado expected. But I think the talent is there to be a top 6 player, to even be a center if he wants to be. I think so much potential could be had here with Montreal, but it's all up to them to unlock it. There's very few coaches out there, though, that I would trust as much as Marty St. Louis to get the most out of Newhook right. And for Montreal, there's not likely to be much team success, or much more team success than there was last year, but individual players rising above will be the biggest source of development. Newhook is one of those guys. Now, speaking of personal development, let's go on to my favorite team here in the Dallas Stars, and I could have a couple options here. I almost put Thomas Hartley. I think that'll be a great choice as well, but I just had to go with Wyatt Johnston here. I mean, it's hard not to have Wyatt Johnston here, but he's still 20 years old, which is crazy to think about, especially with how good his last season was. In 82 games, got 24 goals, 41 points. He got 6 points in 19 playoff games and 4 goals. Looked good there. Probably should have gotten more points in the playoffs, honestly. He looked really consistent. But that regular season, that rookie season, was super underrated. That goal scoring was super consistent too. And for a younger player, that is already something to lay the groundwork for. Already looking mature, already looking like he belonged in the NHL level. He'll likely be on that top 6 still, could even get second line center minutes, and to me, I could absolutely see that sticking throughout the entire season. But the goal scoring he has, the IQ he has, the consistency, it's already at such a pro level, and I think it'll get even better. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a 60-point season out of Wyatt Johnston and even more development in offense. I mean, I could not be more wrong about my assessment back in 2021. We just didn't really see him too much in that season, but the Stars knew what they were doing. The scouting staff has known what they are doing, and Wyatt Johnston is maybe one of the biggest successes they've ever had. Now we have 6 different players left that I think will break out in big time in 2024. Next up, let's go on to a player that's pretty obvious here, and we've talked about him a lot this offseason, and that is Pavel Zacha, the Boston Bruins. With Bergeron, with Krejci gone, Zacha is going to be the first line center there and going to be given that responsibility off the bat. Whether he's able to seize that and make the most of it, we'll have to see, but I do think there's a good chance that he does. You can see last year in Boston, he was able to really put up some major point totals, 57 points in 82 games, and finally show some of that talent, and 6 assists in 7 games as well, and eventually was getting some great minutes as the first line center there. But I think Zacha's in a unique position with Marchand and Pastrnak still there on that first line. He'll, of course, get that amazing offense around him, and I think he's going to benefit pretty well. I don't know if 70 or 80 points is in the cards, but definitely a point increase on last year, and hopefully we see more responsibility out of him in the faceoffs and the overall play too. Now going on to my next 2 players I think are going to break out in the 2024 season. These are 2 guys coming from the Arizona Coyotes that are another reason why I think they'll be a much better team this next season. Let's start off on the defensive side of things with Sean Durzi, who they acquired in a trade with the LA Kings, and I think he's going to really reshape that defense. Of course, with Valimaki and Moser already doing great things as younger players, Durzi gets added on top of that. 24 years old, 6 foot, 194 pounds. You can see last year the point consistency he's had. This last year got 38 points in 72 games, but really the defensive acumen is something that needs to improve in Arizona. Still though, I see him getting top power play time, which is the big thing, getting a lot of offensive opportunity, and hopefully we see the defense improve a little bit with that. Still though, I can see 40 plus points for him in Arizona with a lot of responsibility there and having the best season of his career. But now let's go into the forward side of things here and go on to a player that's going to be spectacular for Arizona throughout the entire season, and that is Barrett Hayton, who had 38 points in his last 49 games of the season last year. And we were talking about Byfield, about Kotkaniemi having great second halves. Hayton had the best out of those 3, and at 23 years old, already with a strong defensive pedigree and the IQ that he has there, we really saw him last year take that big step in offense. 43 points in 82 games. We're going to see him get past that 20-goal plateau, though, alongside Keller and Schmaltz on that top line. Really cooking throughout the entire season. Getting that big sample size is going to be huge for his career. I could see a solid 60-point season out of him, and considering his age, that's spectacular. I mean, he'll likely be a solid second line center as Cooley comes up and becomes that first line guy eventually. But for right now, Hayton is pulling the bus pretty well and has been one of Keller's strongest centers, which I know is not the greatest thing in the world, especially considering how long still Keller has been in the NHL, but Hayton is looking like a strong centerman and hopefully a top 6 guy for the future. Now we're going to go to yet another D here, and we're still going to stick in the Western Conference. A player that was traded from one team to the other at the trade deadline, but will hopefully be a big part of the resurgence of this team's defense. Let's go on to Filip Hronek of the Vancouver Canucks, who is in a fascinating position in his, I guess, 25 and 26-year-old season coming up here, because with Detroit, I mean, you can see what he was able to do points-wise. He got 26 points, 38 points again in 2023, and offensively was showing some great things. Last year, though, we saw him get a little bit more well-rounded, get a little bit more, I guess, considerate in the defensive end. And he, of course, was traded to Vancouver, was injured for the first little bit, and then was able to play 4 games at the end of the year, getting 1 point, but looking pretty solid in Vancouver's system. Of course, their defense in Vancouver is the thing that's looking to improve the most, with Hronek there for a full season, with players like Susie and Ian Cole coming in. I think it'll be a lot better, and hopefully they'll give Hronek a little more just room to breathe, but we'll see if he's paired with Quinn Hughes. We'll see how they fit it with everything, but Hronek will be on that top 4, and I think Vancouver's system, with the opportunity they bring, I think he could really have a solid season, and with the stars there, I could see him getting over 40, maybe even 50 points, and hopefully having the best defensive season too. But now let's move on to the 2 last players who I think are going to be breaking out in a big way in 2024. Now, I guess that's not true, because there are some other players I think will break out that just missed today's list, but we're going to go to another team here that has 2 players I wanted to talk about in the Colorado Avalanche. And if the Avs are going to stay competitive in the Central and potentially even win the Central, these 2 players will have to come up in a big way. First things first, on the D, I have Bowen Byram at 22 years old. This next season is going to be huge for him, mostly just staying healthy. You can see what he's been able to do: 19 games in 2021, 30 games in 2022, 42 games in 2023. That health has been a major issue, and the constant concussions have really derailed Byram's career. But when he has played, he's been brilliant, and that goal scoring, you can see, is getting better and better every single year. 10 goals in 42 games last season, and to me, there's still so much potential with the puck movement and the offensive play there. This next season, hopefully we'll see him finally get to a good mark in games, and hopefully that will bring some consistency as well. Byram has the talent, he has the potential to be a top pair D. This next year, I hope, is where we finally start to really see that. But now let's go on to the last player I'm going to talk about here, and a player that will, alongside Nathan MacKinnon, have a just spectacular season. Another player that will be affected a lot by the health, but I can't believe I'm saying this. I am predicting Jonathan Drouin to break out in 2024. Now, what we've seen in I guess, the early, not training camps, but early scrimmages with Colorado, it seems like they're going to have Drouin with MacKinnon to start out the year, and there is no better situation for Drouin to be. Of course, the Halifax connection back then, he was brilliant in the QMJHL, and that's what really brought the massive hype that we saw. I mean, 41 points in 16 playoff games back in 2014, just insane. It's monster numbers, video game numbers, and that type of play, I don't think we're going to see out of him in the NHL, but I think alongside MacKinnon, we could see a special season out of him. You see, last year, 58 games, he got 29 points on a Habs team that was desperate for any offense, and 27 assists there. If he's able to get to maybe 10, 15 goals, he's a player that I could see maybe even getting 50, 60 points in a MacKinnon full season. I mean, MacKinnon is in the prime of his career. What he's been able to do when he's been healthy has been spectacular, and the even strength play, I think, will really translate year after year. Having Drouin on his wing is going to really benefit Drouin a lot, but I think the playmaking and the passing is still great when he's healthy. He showed that last year, and honestly, if he does stay healthy, I wouldn't be surprised if he has the most points out of any season in his career this next year. It would be pretty crazy to think about, but I wouldn't be surprised. But those are my 15 picks for big breakout players in 2024. Let me know down below, what do you guys agree with? What do you disagree with? And let us know down below as well, who are your breakout picks? We got 15 players here on this list, but I want to know if you guys, maybe on your team around the NHL, who do you think is going to have career seasons this next year? Let us know down below. Of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you guys enjoy the ranking videos and want to see more of them. So much coming throughout the year that you guys won't want to miss, so subscribe if you haven't. Of course, make sure you share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online. online. Make sure you get them out there and click on this card for all my rankings content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Thank you guys so much for watching. I feel absolutely blessed every time you guys watch one of these videos. It means the world, and I love making these videos. I love making the ranking. I love making the predictions videos, and I love that you guys support every single time. Appreciate it so much, and hopefully you guys did enjoy. And I will see you in the next one. Make sure you drink some water, stay safe, and goodbye.